Check 1, 2. Think everything sounds okay. Give it just a moment for the server to start, then we will get live with tonight's coverage. And we are live with practice here at Watkins Glen. Pivotal race in the season, as we are now just halfway through the season. And let me have a look at the standings as of current. So with drop races included, it is currently Prieto actually in the lead of the overall championship. That is going to be your pro championship. Aramich in P2 and Ormiston actually in P3 in that fight with Slapshot in P4. Not very many points separating them. Platypus in P5. But it is Prieto with a slight bit of a lead, and in the AM Championship, it is a 1-point separation between Tychopath and Sierra. I believe we have seen both of those drivers take home wins in their respective classes. James Earl Jones and Manelli 2 points apart for P3 and P4 with 69 points and 67 points. 7 and 9 points behind the leader in that, the third and fourth place AM drivers in that championship. But again, here halfway through Season 4, this GT3 season with GoFAST Racing, and it is definitely a close one. The reigning champion has found a bit of success, but has not been the absolute dominant force early on in the season. That has actually been Prieto. If we do remember, Prieto last season was also right up there with Ormison for the majority of the season, but around the halfway point really had kind of a fall off in finish positions. I think maybe we lost Prieto. I don't think Prieto participated in just about every race last season, as it was Platypus that ended up moving up into the second place spot. But no antics, no funny business here. It's a pretty straightforward and open track. Much easier than Bathurst, but you could say a little bit harder to master. Last week at Bathurst, we did see a good bit of chaos, and while chaos will be no stranger tonight, should at least be a bit more comfortable on the minds of our drivers than the most dangerous mountain. Tricks it with a 144.9, and I can only assume that these times will drop. I know that these drivers can run times down into the 143s in these GT3 machines. And flying up through the S's. This is going to be the talking point of tonight, the bus stop, as it always is. There's only room for one car to go through the bus stop safely, but I can guarantee you that we will be going through there side by side, door to door, possibly even 3 wide, as Trixit going all the way out at the exit of the outer loop before coming down the chute. And we'll rocket up the slight incline for the toe of the boot. Uphill, bit of a cambered right-hander to pull you around as you crest the hill, then go down towards the heel of the boot. And track limits, using all of that track to your absolute advantage. Very, very crucial here at Watkins Glen, as Trixit going a bit beyond those track limits, putting 2 tires in the grass. And I think that's going to invalidate that lap there, a bit off the apex in the entry to the penultimate corner. And I think that is going to invalidate this current lap, but it is Douglas behind who is on a flying lap. And Douglas takes that lap up to 3rd fastest. We do have a long while to go still in this free practice session, but we can start to get a feel for a bit of what our drivers are capable of. And likely everybody on some sort of race package right now. Lots of fuel, good bit of aero, not going to be absolutely trying to smash for pace, as Douglas doing a very good job of keeping that Ferrari 296 under control coming through the bus stop. And you start to see a bit of the complexity with that chicane, as it's one that can very, very quickly catch one car off guard. And if it catches one car off guard, With as close as these packs run, it could very, very quickly develop into a multi-car incident. Well, we do hope that is not the case. We do need to at least recognize the possibility of such an instance. Ormiston in the Mustang. Loud, proud V8 on home turf here at Watkins Glen. Although the Dark Horse Cup car would be used to going straight as you come out of the outer loop, not down into the chute and into the boot where we are now. But nonetheless, Ormiston and the Ford Mustang Dark Horse GT3 are definitely here at home at Watkins Glen. Tricks it, knocking a bit more time off the board, then invalidating at the exit of turn 1. Can't take the NASCAR line through there. If it's asphalt, it's legal, they say, in the NASCAR Cup Series. But not so much here for GT3 cars that you would see in IMSA or the GT World Challenge. Traffic also very much going to be a factor here, as I believe that is the Ferrari of Tyler James up ahead of Trixit. And as you can see, not very easy to go around those lap traffic back marker cars as Tyler James goes around the outside of the chute, allows Trixit to go up the inside. But very, very narrow runnings here at Watkins Glen. Extremely easy to get caught up behind cars that you know you're faster than, but with the respect that you do have to give while you are racing, you do need to give the car ahead the opportunity to move themselves out of the way with those blue flags that they have. While they do have their own right to race, they also need to acknowledge the presence of a blue flag. And welcome in Zalexi. Go ahead and give Zalexi a follow, as they're going to be with me in the booth this weekend for the Bathurst 12 Hour with Aztec Racing. And you are going to see quite a few of the drivers here tonight in that grid for the Bathurst 12 Hour this weekend. And it's going to be about, I think the race starts at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is like noon or 2 or something like that for those of you over on the wrong side of the world. And yes, we are going to be doing the entire 12-hour broadcast of the Bathurst 12 Hour. At least I will be, personally, as it is my absolute favorite endurance racing event. Sierra goes third fastest and is our AM leader. Or actually not our AM leader, is 1 point behind the leader in that AM championship. Sierra, at least with that Lexus, showing some pace that is very reminiscent of a pro driver, so could be looking at an upgrade at the end of this season. And this is a bit of the traffic issue that we will see tonight. Ormiston creeping down to the sub 44s. And Giant in the Mustang as well, 15 thousandths of a second slower than Ormiston. That is not much time between. And Ormiston not looking to be so comfortable at the top right now, as we have 3 drivers within a tenth fighting for the theoretical pole position, as this is still just free practice, not quite qualifying, but does give you a taste of the show that you will see tonight, as I know that these drivers are capable of sub 44s, which is pushing about the limit of what you can do in these cars. Welcome in, Marshall 88. We We are looking for a good one tonight. And remember, there is going to be a split qualifier between, who is that goes around? That is the Mercedes. Is that the Mercedes of Iceberg? I believe it is. Yes, that was the, if it's not Iceberg, it was Platypus. And it was the Mercedes of Platypus. We've got 43 drivers on the grid tonight. It is quite the showing here with GoFAST Racing, and this is the biggest grid that GoFAST Racing has ever seen, and we consistently have returning drivers, over 40 drivers every race this season, and it has been quite the show. As Giant first to go, sub 44, 43.912. Told you the sub 44s were coming. There they are, Giant, the first to go, sub 44, 43.912. Ormiston, a bit more work to do, actually quite a bit more work to do. So you got half a second to gain for Ormiston. And I have not eaten dinner yet, as I got home about an hour ago, and we go right on into the stream. Do make sure that I do get quite a bit of water, though. As Ormiston goes for a practice pit stop. Your mom goes second fastest. Just under 4/10 behind the fastest time set by Giant. Remember, that's sub 44. So Lexi, I can guarantee you're going to be drinking some water this weekend. That is for sure. Again, for those who are new, it is going to be a sub or a split qualifier, as we do have an AM class. Currently, the AM championship leader, Tychopath, the number 16 McLaren. Currently P9 overall, and the championship contender of Sierra, just a couple tenths behind. And in about 5 minutes' time, we will see these AM drivers duke it out on track by themselves, fight for their own pole position, but they do get seated within the overall class, so they will be mixed in well within the pros. And while we do usually see our AM drivers pretty close to each other on the grid, we did see some early pace from Sierra. And the more pros that these AMs are able to put between each other, the better they are in their fight. And also for our pros, it does give them a bit of a goal to strive towards. Need to qualify ahead of the majority of the AM field, because if you don't, you're going to have quite a bit of work on your hands to navigate through that AM field. You'll be racing a bunch of cars that, while you are racing for overall position, they're going to be racing, fighting amongst each other for their class positions, and that could just put you in a position where you don't want to be. As Tychopath will come in for a practice pit stop. And it is a good entry into the pit lane. Practice here at Watkins Glen. There is also going to be quite a bit of focus on pit entry etiquette, pit entry standard. You do need to make sure that when you go into the pit lane that you stay all the way to the inside and use the pit lane markers. Don't go into the pit lane late. Stewards will be watching that. If it's caught on stream, it's going to be a little bit easier to give that penalty than others. But again, at pit entry, those drivers who are listening to the stream right now, make sure that you use the actual pit entry road, as if you go in late, you will be getting a penalty for doing so. And the pit exit also going to be a big factor, making sure that you are respectful to those cars that are coming out of pit lane, as well as watching for cars that are on flying laps or currently racing while you come out of the pit lane on your out lap. Prieto in the NSX of all cars, 43.892, and not the only NSX driver out there, as I believe Ketu is also in the NSX. And Ketu joined in as a spectator as of right now, so we'll see if maybe Ketu is just going to sit out for now, or is maybe doing a little bit of studying. But Prieto, who is currently your championship leader, your overall championship leader, fastest in free practice of 43.892, 200ths of a second faster than the 43 of Giant. As the majority of the field about to start their final flying lap of this free practice session, and this is all going to be in preparation of the qualifying that we have coming up in just a moment. Again, a split qualifier, 20 minutes, 10 minutes per class. Our AMs will take the track first, get it nice and prepped for our pro field to come on through, and welcome in Anthony. I believe you've got a new series coming out, a driver swap series, and if you'd like to learn about that, go ahead and join my Discord in the Twitch chat, and you can head on over to the League Promotion channel and check out the new driver swap series that Anthony is putting on with, I believe it's High Caliber Racing, if I'm correct. Out of turn one and all by himself, as we do have quite a few cars being led by Brute, but we'll go back. Where is the number 20? I think he backed out a bit there. And Douglas, the young talent in the Ferrari. As we will have a few more drivers yet to finish, as Aramich will get, actually that's not Aramich, that's Trixit, the teammate of Aramich, will get another lap to go. Ormiston will get another lap, bouncing off the wall and going all the way out to the extent of that track limit. A few more coming behind, and see another driver go into the wall there. Ormiston will get another lap. But the 5 of Autry will be our first to finish practice. Boris will come across the line next. Peach will also come across just behind, as the majority of our drivers coming in for a practice pit stop. And I believe Prieto will do the same, and as is instructed, using the actual pit lane entry lines for the pit entry, and failure to do so will result in a penalty. The majority of the field in the pit lane. There are still a few drivers out on track. Iceberg in the Mercedes is one of those drivers. And the 21 of Platypus has finished, but is going for another lap and maybe a pit entry practice. But I don't think that Platypus is going to get to the pit lane before the session is ended. And yes, it absolutely is a huge grid. We have 42 drivers on track. Ketu is entered as a spectator. And Iceberg going for a practice pit stop. And we are live with AM qualifying. Tychopath, first to go in the AM field, as the 10-minute qualifying for the AM class has begun. Tychopath needs to try and get locked in ahead of his championship competitor of Sierra. There is 1 point separating the two of them, and that means that whoever finishes in front of the other will take the championship lead heading out of the halfway point of this season. Round 5 of 10. And we are definitely going to have a banger race tonight. Hopefully not a banger race in the Wreckfest kind of demolition sense, but a banger race and a good one. Although the possibility of such a race occurring is not 100% out of the possibility as well. Up over the crest, down towards the heel of the boot, as Tychopath doesn't really need to worry about this lap being quick, just needs to get the tires and brakes nice and warm to go for the first flying lap of this AM qualifying session. Had 20 minutes to do whatever you wanted in free practice. Now you've only got 10 minutes to show what you've learned, as Tychopath will come through the final corner, try and hang it out nice and wide. I think he barely scraped against the wall, but across the line will start his first flying lap of this qualifying session. They will start to queue up behind. Not really a track where you want to get stuck behind somebody else, not much room to use slipstream, but Tychopath will come up through the S's and has that preferential track position all the way up on his own as the rest of the AM field comes across the line to start their laps. Now through the bus stop for Tychopath. This is one of the crucial points where you really need to try and maximize your speed through the chicane, as that is a big make or break point for your lap, and especially during the race. If you take the bus stop chicane faster than the driver ahead of you, you have a very good chance at setting up a move either into the outer loop or down into the chute. Coming up around the toe of the boot, Tychopath about to cross the Sector 3 timing line. And we will just wait a few more corners and see. As long as Tychopath stays valid, it will be the first qualifying lap, and I think it's a bit of a mistake coming around the heel of the boot. We'll see if it stays valid into the final two corners, the big long sweeping S. Regardless of whether or not this lap is valid, still needs to get going with it, and it is not going to be valid. We'll see who comes across the line next. It is Nate with the 45.6. That is going to be the time to beat in the AM field. Schwartz goes P2. And still waiting on a few more times from the AM field. Elmo goes P3. James L. Jones P2. Scroll goes P1 for now with a 45.412. Shuby goes P3. Chandler goes P3, knocking Shuby down to P4. Sierra goes P3, knocking Chandler down to P4. The 555 of Manelli goes P4, knocking Chandler down to P5. Tyler James goes P11. The 30 comes across the line, and it's not going to be valid there. The 333 next across the line goes fourth fastest for Cabe. Still a few more drivers to get a lap under their belt as we are halfway through this AM qualifying. And the current pole sitter of Scroll yet to complete, or not yet to complete a lap, stuck behind some traffic as Tychopath coming out of the final corner should be setting a valid lap, and it is good enough for pole by quite a large margin of 44.667. Nate goes P2, back up to P2, knocking Scroll down to P3. 99 of Schwartz comes across the line, good enough for P3. And a bit of a group of cars headed by James Earl Jones. Jones P8. Actually not headed by Jones, that was headed by the Ferrari. Which Ferrari is that just up ahead? That is the 444 of Elmo, who does have James in the Mustang behind. Elmo will pull over to the side and allow James to go on ahead. Maybe we are side by side down the straight. And yes, Elmo will slot in behind. Currently, Tychopath in a good position to extend the lead in the AM Championship, but Sierra, currently P7, has a bit of work to do. We know he's got the pace, though. Just needs to put the lap together. And Sierra needs to try and get up there with... Ooh, as I think we maybe lost Sierra there. No? Ooh, I think Sierra may be having a little bit of an issue. So we will pull away from Sierra for now. Tychopath trying to extend the pole position, only finds a few thousandths of a second, but it is an extension. None of our pro field queuing up at the end of the pit lane yet. And it is currently a one-man show at the front of the field. Tychopath almost half a second clear of the rest of that AM field. Nate P2 has 2/10 of a gap, or right about 2/10 of a gap to Mac Marbles, who is currently P3. And then they're only separated by a few hundredths or a tenth going back from there. The 16 of Tychopath abandons the lap. I don't know if Tychopath is going to be able to get another lap out. I think if he goes out immediately as soon as he gets back into the pit lane and dropping off the jacks, I believe that's exactly what he's gonna do. Put new tires and fuel in the car, go out for one last flying lap. He's got to get going though, as time is quickly running out as our pros are queuing up at the end of the pit lane. And who is that wants to get out there at the front? It is Ouroboros, who is ready to go. Has the Ferrari of Douglas immediately behind, the NSX of Prieto, and the BMW of Gooseslayer. All of those pro drivers ready and queued up, but they've got a minute and a half. They've got to wait. Not quite time to get out there, and Tychopath needs to get a move on. I don't know if he'll have enough time to get to the start-finish line and go for another flying lap. It's going to be very, very close if he is able to. And I mean very, very close. Down the chute of turn 6. We'll see if Tychopath is able to get back to the start-finish line. If not, is Sierra going to be able to pull off the upset, sliding through the final corner, or the penultimate corner, and possibly doing the same thing? But again, those issues with Sierra are persisting. I believe we may have lost Sierra. But Sierra has come back. Sierra goes P3. Tychopath, I don't think, is going to have enough time to get back to the pit lane, and will not have enough time. That is Peachy right behind. Cabe will cross the line. I think that's done. Cabe P10, Tyler James P16. Peachy goes third fastest as our pros are filing out of the pit lane. Scroll currently P8. See if he's got any improvement under his belt through the final set of sweeping corners. And going all the way out to the extent of the track limits, pushing up against the wall across the line. And it will not be an improvement for Scroll. Next across the line, the number 427 of Nate in the Mustang. Needs half a second for pole position, and everyone ahead has already locked in their times. Will not be an improvement for Nate. The 33 of Devin Lingard across the line, currently P36, and it will be good enough for P10 in the AM field. Bradzilla coming through the penultimate corner, racing towards the final corner of turn 11. Currently P16. Needs a good bit of improvement to get up further into the positions. Will not find that improvement. Stays P16. The 555 of Manelli into the pit lane. That's going to bring it into our AM qualifying. Tycho Path P1, Mac Marbles P2, Peachy P3, Sierra P4, Nate P5, Schwartz P6, Manelli P7, Scroll P8, Shuby P9, Devin Lingard P10, Cabe P11, James Earl Jones P12, Chandler P13, Elmo P14, Profit P15, Bradzilla P16, and Tyler James P17. Now it is time for the show. Ouroboros in the Audi out front will be the first to start this pro qualifying. The track is optimum. The amateur drivers put some rubber down on the track, brought some heat into that asphalt, and we will see what types of times these drivers will be able to bring to the board. Looking for sub 44s. We had multiple drivers in free practice into the 43s. And with full qualifying setups, we should see quite a few of our drivers into the 43s. If you want to get on pole, it's got to be a 43, and we only saw a few drivers do that in free practice. Ouroboros will be the first to set the pace for the pro field. Going around turn 8. Actually, sorry, that would be turn 7. The heel is turn 8. Absolutely flying in the Audi. A unique car choice. Not too many drivers choose the Audi in this series. Neither too many drivers choose the NSX. And for the Animus Racing team, 2 of them using unique cars, either both of them in the Audi or one in the NSX. Very rarely do you see them in more common cars such as Ferraris or McLarens. You would also likely see them in a Mustang as well, but at home in their mid-engine cars across the line, what's it going to be for Ouroboros? 44.6 is not good enough for pole pole position. At least I don't think it will stay pole position, as no Prieto, the teammate, a 44.260. Aramich goes just a 10th slower. And now you start to see the AM field being broken up by these pros coming through. And Sierra was P4, now all the way down to P11, and has 3 pros and 3 AMs, or 2 AMs, separating himself and his championship contender. You will see these pro drivers using every bit of the track. It may look a bit sketchy, but they are absolutely on the limit. These are those aliens where you go online and go look at a track guide and say, well, how the hell are they running a 43 on that track when all I can do is a 45 or a 46? Well, these pros will show you exactly how they do it. While you may go and try and replicate it, it's a lot harder than it looks. Down the hill towards the heel of turn 8. Prieto looking to extend to the championship lead. It's not a big lead, but it is a lead nonetheless. Prieto having a great season so far. Ormiston, the reigning champion, currently P4. But I can guarantee you, how they stand now is not going to be the order when this qualifying comes to an end in about 5 minutes' time. Cross the line again from Prieto. Will it be a sub 44? Yes, it is a 43.887. Who is going to be able to answer? Ormiston not quite into the sub 44s, but is right there at the cusp. A 44.1, I believe. That could be a 44.2. Let me take a look at the timing and we will see. Ormiston with a bit of work to do and a poor run through the bus stop, I believe. I don't think this is really going to be the flying lap that Ormiston is looking for. Aramage just ahead with the teammate of Trixit just behind. These two teammates currently running P4 and P5. The 420 of Mad Psycaster coming through the final corner. Currently P21. Looking for an improvement across the line. Good enough for P13. Giant right behind. P12 goes P4. Knocks Aramage down a position. Ouroboros in the Audi with Douglas in the Ferrari right behind. We'll see if they are able to bring an improvement. Douglas slamming into that exterior wall, and while it's very easy, it's not going to be the fastest. Is an improvement for Douglas, though. Good enough for P15. A few more of our drivers coming across the line. Aramage goes P2, knocking Ormiston down a spot, and Trixit with what I believe is right just below the 1 minute 44 mark as Trixit goes P2. The two teammates, well, they want to be side by side. And by golly, they're going to do it. Platypus into the pit lane, likely to put fresh tires and a fresh load of qualifying fuel into that car and get another run at that pole position, or try and see if he can scrape up some sort of improvement. Trip zip between Trixit and Your Mom, the two McLarens. Well, you can say that the McLarens probably got some similar skill in the drivers. Both drivers 103 thousandths off of the pole sitting lap of a 43.877 by Prieto. But both of those drivers are 143.990. I don't think that's going to stand. But it is cool to see. Happens quite a bit in GoFAST racing as we have multiple drivers run the exact same lap time. Giant knocking the two McLarens down a peg as Giant goes second fastest. And that will be an end to Giant's qualifying run. The 20 of Douglas into the pit lane is not going to be able to improve. The 210 of Prieto doesn't find any improvement. We'll have one more opportunity. Aramage doesn't find any improvement. Trixit, no improvement either. Ormiston, no improvement. That is Guzman in the Porsche, currently P13, did not improve. Salinas P11. The 55 will come across the line next. That is Zoanam, currently P24, stays P24. Autry in the Ferrari, currently P32, does not improve. Just a bit longer to go. One more lap for those drivers who are just now coming across the line. And all of our pros at the front of the field. This is going to be an end to their qualifying as we have had a bit of an incident. Guzman off at the outer loop. That will bring an end to his qualifying. The 55 of Zoanam going for a wild ride through the bus stop. The 420 of Mad Sidecaster through the final corners as the clock hits 0. It's going to be a race to the line. Mad Sidecaster, does he have enough for pole? Does not improve, stays P10. The 210 of Prieto wants to try and buy some insurance to hold on to this pole position. Has the 9 of Aramich right behind. We will be watching all of these times as they come across the line. Trixit, the teammate of Aramich, also right behind him as well. Prieto needs to try and find some improvement. Still going for it, so I think he's got some green delta as he comes across the line. 43.750. Trixit goes into the pit lane. Aramich stays P5. The 11 of Salinas does not improve. The 24 of Brute does not improve. Stays, or goes into the pit lane. Iceberg does not improve either. The 71 of Your Mom trying to go for an improvement, but it's ultimately not going to happen. Has Prieto scored a pole position? The 34 of Dingham coming out of the final corner looking for some improvement. Right behind him is Marvy. Dingham P28 goes P24. Marvy abandons the lap. What about Slapshot? Took the pole position last week at the last moment at Bathurst. Does not repeat, but does improve by a couple positions up to P5. Last driver across the line, the BMW of Francisco, out of the final corner, grazing against the wall, but looking for an improvement. Currently P32 goes up to P29. Well, that brings an end to qualifying. It's Prieto on pole. Prieto with Animus Racing on pole. Giant P2. Trixit P3. Your Mom P4, Slapshot P5, Aramich P6, Ormiston P7, Brute P8, Salinas P9, Mad Sidecaster P10, Platypus P11, Langley P12, Guzman P13, Ouroboros P14, Tychopath P15, Iceberg P16, Gooseslayer P17, Douglas P18, MacMarbles P19, Marvy P20, Peachy P21, Sierra P22, Nate P23, Dingham P24, Zoanon P25, Autry P26, Schwartz P27, Manelli P28, Scroll P29, Shuby P30, Devin Lingard P31, Cade P32, James Earl Jones P33, Chandler P34, Elmo P35, Prophet P36, Bradzilla P37, Tyler James P38, Peach P39, Ricky Bobby P40, Nightwalker P41, and Francisco P42. That's an end to our qualifying. In AM, a quick refresher. Tychopath on pole, MacMarbles P2, Peachy P3, Sierra P4, Nate P5, Schwartz P6, Manilli P7, Scroll P8, Shuby P9, Devin Lingard P10, Cabe P11, James Earl Jones P12, Chandler P13, Elmo P14, Prophet P15, Bradzilla P16, Tyler James P18, and Nightwalker P9, Tyler James P17, Nightwalker P18. Well, it's Prieto on pole. And let's see what they are going to be able to do. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, we will be ready to get rolling for our formation lap. It is a bit warm in here, and thank you, Tychopath. You are supposed to be driving, but thank you for tuning into the stream, and thank you to everyone who has tuned in. I will wait for the little ad to end before I go on my whole rant. And if you're not seeing an ad, please let me know, because I'm just interested in how it works, because whenever I run one, not everybody gets to see one. Or not everybody sees one, so... All right. Well, we are about 40 seconds away from engines fired, and thank you, Tycho, for the Prime subscription. Again, if you have Amazon Prime, you do get a free Twitch Prime subscription, which gives you no ads on the streams and also helps me a lot. And it also gets you a few more emotes, which I do need to add. So if you guys have any suggestions for emotes that you want, please let me know. I need to get working on a few more league-related emotes. But other than that, we are a few seconds away from engines fired as Prieto will lead the field off the line to get started with this formation lap. And we will get rolling and inch ever so much closer towards the green flag for round 5 of GoFAST Racing Season 4 here at Watkins Glen. 45-minute race, 1 pit stop required. And it is going to be a good one at the Glen tonight. As we are engines fired, and we will get on board with Prieto as he will get us rolling for the formation lap. Over 40 cars on the grid all ready to get going, as Sierra, I think, is still having a bit of a connection issue back there in the grid. Hopefully that will not cause anything during the race, but blipping is something that is a bit of an issue when racing sometimes, so hopefully that clears up. Again, Prieto at the front and in a very good position to extend the championship lead. Prieto and Ormiston were in a good battle for the championship at this point in the previous season, and it has been all Prieto this season. Aramich in P2 is currently in P6. Ormiston down to P7. You can never count him out, though. But the bigger conversation is Sierra, who is 1 point behind Tychopath. Tychopath has not had the best luck throughout this season. When he has a finish, it's a good finish. So we will see if Tychopath able to bring the win in AM. It would open up a gap in that AM championship, especially if Sierra finishes where he is now. But back to the front of the field. Prieto wants to get out front, stay out front, just like Ormiston did last week at Bathurst. The quicker that Prieto can break free of the field, the quicker that Prieto will be able to calm down and just run smooth and consistent laps. Now, something to note, the two teammates of your mom and Slap are not going to be one behind the other, but they are going to be close. And they are going to be in opposite sides of the track, so we could see them maybe make a bit of a buffer, trying to split the two Team BDK mod drivers of Trixit and Aramich on either side of these Slap Your Mom drivers, as they are... well, I'd say the four of them do make quite a feisty bunch. Very, very long time GoFAST racing drivers, and all very, very talented. So we could have some very, very tight running between the four of them. We get the call for 2x2 as Prieto will hold the inside at turn number 1. Giant will be lined up around the outside. And then it's a bunch of McLarens behind. You do see the two red and black McLarens. It's kind of a stagger, cross multiply the two teammates there. Is Trixit has, I believe, Slapshot right behind, and your mom has Aramich right behind. But anyway, we approach the start-finish line. Prieto ready to take the green flag as we are about to get rolling and started with round 5 of the GoFAST Racing Season 4. Green, 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 but the car number 427 gets a drive-through penalty for speeding on the start. And Brute, very, very aggressive, very early, wants to go for it. Goes up the inside of both Aramich and I believe that is Slapshot. And very quickly wants to move up the order. See if he's afforded the same courtesy, and also looking at the Mustangs as they are going to be absolute monsters down the straight. Prieto has gotten ahead, and here they go 2 by 2 through the bus stop. That is, I believe, Giant and your mom going side by side. And they survive, but no, Brute behind, involved in an incident. I think your mom also involved in that, or Slapshot, one of the two. Goose Slayer also goes off and into the wall. And who is that? Is that the 16 of Tychopath, who has gone way down the order? And I believe has been involved in an early incident. More contact between Brute and Tychopath, makes contact with Tyler James as well. And a very unfortunate start for the Porsche driver and the AM leader in that championship. Prieto trying to break free, but Trixit's not going to make that a very easy task. And I believe Aramich has actually gone down a few positions as well, if I can find him. Aramich with quite a bit of traffic up ahead. Ouroboros and Guzman, those two up ahead, and Douglas in the Ferrari. Very much saying, hey, let's get a move on. I understand that first lap wasn't the best, but we got a race to go for. Ouroboros going up the inside of Guzman, and Aramich wants to follow through. Is Aramich going to go for a move up the inside of Ouroboros? No, Guzman allows Ouroboros to go around the outside, and Aramich is forced to do the same. Ormiston up to P5 right behind the McLaren of Slapshot, so it was the 71 of your mom involved in that incident at the outer loop on the previous lap. Ormiston goes around the outside of Slapshot, locks in the move as they head into the bus stop. Is that Ouroboros going around? No, it is not, but I thought I saw someone going around at the bus stop there. Guzman dropping down a few positions. And it is very, very hectic. Early on, Guzman goes door to door with your mom, who is very adamant about going up the inside at the chute there. Now Ormiston hunting down the fellow Mustang of Giant. Slapshot right behind. The battle for the AM lead between Mac Marbles and Sierra, with Mick Peachy right behind in that battle as well. Peachy, I think, having to avoid some contact, going very slow through turn 8 as they come through 9, now losing positions as he's going to get swallowed up by the pro field behind. Holds his line, and your mom going up the inside of Guzman. I will say it is a bit much to try and keep track of at all times right now. Ormiston up to P4, Trixit in P2, and within slipstream range of the leader in the NSX of Prieto. This is going to be quite a battle up at the front. The McLaren does seem to have a bit of a top speed advantage. We'll see if Trixit's going to be able to run down the Honda through the corners. Prieto showed he was very, very quick in qualifying, but I don't know if he's going to be as quick in the race. The 427 clears the drive-through penalty for the starting infringement. And I think Prieto going a bit defensive as that gap has closed down a good bit. The 333 of Cabe off at the bus stop will rejoin the track behind Bradzilla. And is that Peachy around? I believe it was. Yes, it is. Peachy around at turn 6 is now just going to have to wait for the field to cycle through and will drop back very long way in positions. And that bad luck for Tycho Pass showing yet again who was in the lead. And now it is between Mac Marbles and Sierra. Battle between Your Mom and Guzman, as Your Mom was unable to hold on to that position that was taken a lap ago. We'll try and go around the outside of Guzman. Your Mom with a bit of damage on that McLaren though. Up the inside into the pit lane early. I think a strategy call for Your Mom here, who wants to go long on tires and try and play strategy and let the race fall backwards into his hands. Ormiston in P4 is within slipstream range of the fellow Mustang of Giant in P3. And while Prieto is opening a slight gap to the Honda of Trixit, Ormiston is inching ever so much closer into the podium positions if he can just find a way past Giant. Ormiston with clean air is a very, very dangerous beast to contend with. If Ormiston gets ahead of Giant, I would be worried at the front. As Ormiston, once he has a full head of steam, very, very hard to contain from behind. Aramich and Ouroboros with Langley and the Mustang right behind, and then Douglas. These four drivers very close together. Aramich, who again has just been involved in a little bit of bad luck. Try and follow Ouroboros up to the front of the grid. These two drivers very capable of slicing their way through the field and get back up into those top 5 positions. Ormiston inching ever so much closer towards Giant. Ormiston takes the fastest lap of the race, and the reigning champion with a goal on his mind. We'll see if he's able to reel in the Mustang of Giant. Mac Marbles with Zoenom right behind. And Sierra, the current second place AM car in this race tonight, but if the race is scored now, would be scored the AM championship leader. Sierra likely with that notion in mind. May not be pressing too hard of catching the Porsche of Mac Marbles, or maybe an opportunity for Sierra to get into that lead and maybe grow that lead by a good margin. Just about 10 minutes into this race, and it's still tight running pretty much all the way back. The number 15 of Ricky Bobby around at the bus stop. Tries to get it re-entered into the track. It cuts across, nearly makes contact with the Mustang of Nate, who had to serve that starting infringement penalty. Luckily, there was no contact there. Prieto up at the front with Trixit still giving chase. And then Giant right behind with Ormiston in tow. And the almost identically colored, but on different teams, Mercedes and Mustang of Mad Sidecaster, as Platypus in the Mercedes is definitely trying to find a way past, flashing those lights and essentially pushing the Mustang out of turn 1 and up through the S's. Deltas between these four are falling, and they could very well be within slipstream of all four of each other very, very soon. Slapshot and Salinas also creeping into view just behind this top 4. 3 cars going 3 abreast almost, as Ouroboros, Douglas following behind, trying to chase down Aramich. As Aramich got ahead of Ouroboros and just got a couple positions there. They do have a gap that needs to be closed and try and catch up to the 420 of Mad Sidecaster. Still plenty of race to be run. Platypus and Mad Sidecaster still battling it out amongst themselves. Is Platypus going to be close enough for an overtake into turn 9? I don't think so. The 81 of Scroll off the track. Tychopath with damage. And I think Tychopath might have a broken wing. Yes, I believe Tychopath has a broken wing, and that's going to be an entry into the pit lane for Tychopath with damage to repair. That is not going to be helpful whatsoever to the McLaren driver and current standing AM championship leader. 128 of Gooseslayer around at the final corner and will not come into the pit lane, will re-enter the track and try and race back into position. Will come in behind the Ferrari of Autry. Prieto still holding Trixit at bay, although it looks like Trixit has gained in the last sector. And we are about 8 to 10 minutes away from the halfway point where I believe the majority of our front runners would come into the pit lane, but Prieto, Ormiston, very, very likely that they go for an alternative pit strategy. Both of those drivers like to stay out for quite a long time. Ouroboros as well, the teammate of the leading Prieto. Platypus and Mad Sidecaster still in their fight. Is Platypus going to be close enough to go for a move down here into turn 8? No, still trying to size up the move. Does get a good run out of 8. Will try and get alongside, maybe force Mad Sidecaster defensive. It goes for the old switcheroo, but there's no room for it. Has to back out. Will live to fight another day. But I can only imagine Platypus just not very happy. Needs to get past the Mustang before they get to a straightaway, because as soon as they are on a straightaway, it is almost impossible to catch the Mustang. Elmo around backwards on track, and I believe that is the Mustang of Chandler who's got damage at the front. Is that Sierra? Yes, Sierra with a broken wing will try and limp that Lexus back to the pit lane, but limp it will be. Just needs to try and repair that damage. Tychopath may not be out of that championship as Sierra goes around. It does seem like a bit of a silly mistake, but I can guarantee you, with a broken wing, there is no grip at any speed whatsoever on the rear of those GT3 cars, and it is very, very hard to even keep it on the track at that speed. Sierra into the pit lane. I don't know if that's the race over. If not, or if it is, it could be a freeze in the AM championship, or possibly even a new championship leader in AM. If James Earl Jones brings a good finish, James Earl Jones or Manelli, or I don't know if Michael D is racing tonight. Don't see Michael D on the grid. We could have a new AM championship at the end of this race. Prieto brushing up against the wall. Mad Sidecaster doing, or not Mad Sidecaster, Giant doing the same thing. A bit of drama in the championships. Douglas ahead of Ouroboros as Aramich has broken free. I am calculating the drop races in the championship standings. But yes, if I get rid of the drop races, then that would be Manelli in the championship lead for AM. Ouroboros still trying to find a way past the Ferrari of Douglas. And what has happened to Trixit? I think Trixit has made a mistake and is now back in P4. And Prieto gets his wish granted as he's now all up by himself at the front. And Ormiston sees the opportunity and knows that it's clean air between Giant and the leader. And Ormiston wants to get past the fellow Mustang driver, but Giant not making it very easy. Trixit also in this fight might make things a bit interesting for Ormiston at the same time. Slapshot also creeping into view in this fight. Salinas and the Porsche Brute. Actually, I don't think Brute is in that fight. Brute, I believe, yes, Brute is a lap down. Tycho Path has made it back out on track, and a Tycho Path finishes ahead of Sierra. We'll see if Sierra can get it off the jacks and back out on track. If so, then that would be Tycho Path extending the lead in AM, unless unless Manelli were able to outscore Tycho Path. And as of right now, the championship would be between Tycho Path and Manelli. Getting very tight at the front of the field. And right behind, Mad Sidecaster and Platypus. Platypus makes contact with Mad Sidecaster. A bit of a bump, not enough to disrupt and cause an incident, but Platypus, you can tell, is definitely ready to get past Mustang. But the move just not materializing. Giant still ahead of Ormiston as Prieto will try and just continue to take advantage and hold on to this lead. Well, in that case, then Manelli would be the AM championship leader. And then Manelli would be looking to extend the championship lead. Prieto, it looked like he was rotating the rear of that Audi, or not that Audi, that Acura quite a bit. No, it was just a bit of an optical illusion. This battle between the cars that look like they're teammates but aren't. Mad Sidecaster and Platypus, is that Mustang able to really use that top speed to its advantage and pull a gap on the Mercedes of Platypus. But as they come into the bus stop, into the more technical corners, as Tyler James cuts across the track, I believe going around at the bus stop. The Mercedes inches closer, but just not close enough to get the move done. What has happened here? Giant now opening a gap as Ormiston has fallen back, and now Ormiston has a bit of company of Trixit and Slapshot immediately behind Salinas as well, and Brute pretending that he's on the lead lap and is racing in this fight as well, but again, Brute is down a lead lap. But Brute also very, very capable of racing up here in this field. Likely would be were it not for the lap 1 incidents, but sadly that is just the way racing goes sometimes. This battle continues ever longer as we are approaching the halfway point, and we should see our pit stop starting, as I think Mad Sidecaster and Platypus are going to be some of our first takers. Salinas comes in just ahead. This is going to be a race off pit lane between Mad Sidecaster and Platypus. The one of Ormiston has Trixit in tow. Trixit is going to try and apply some pressure to the Mustang of Ormiston, the reigning championship leader. Sorry, the reigning champion. And is currently not the championship leader. That is the NSX of Prieto, who is out front all on his own. And let's watch this race between Mad Psycaster and Platypus. They're both about to drop off the jacks, one behind the other. We'll see if Platypus is able to get the overtake. And no, Mad Psycaster is rolling sooner. Platypus, with a slower stop, is now going to have a lot of work to do as Mad Psycaster will roll off into the distance. Giant up in P2 and has teammate of Platypus, Iceberg, with some damage on the front of that Mercedes. As we will wait and see if these leaders come into the pit lane. And no, not yet. No one diving out. It is Mac Marbles still in the lead in AM. Mac Marbles, I believe, looking to bring home a first-time win in AM. Douglas comes into the pit lane. And Mac Marbles will just continue to lap with a large gap to Manelli, who's currently P2 in the AM field. Marvy comes into the pit lane. Manelli comes into the pit lane. Goose stays out. Tricks it around the outer loop with Slapshot. Now applying some pressure, giving Ormiston some room to breathe. The 13 of Tyler James gets a drive-through penalty, or I believe that may be a 30-second stop and go. Yes, that is a 30-second stop and go for speeding in pit lane. Douglas in the pit lane, Marvy in the pit lane. Sierra, I believe, gets rolling out of the pit lane, but is quite a ways back, and he gets a drive-through penalty for speeding at the same time. As we are officially halfway through this race, Prieto up at the front by himself, and I believe this is going to be an entry into the pit lane for the race leader. Do we have the rest of the drivers follow suit? Giant follows. Ormiston stays out. Trixit stays out. Slapshot comes in. The 5 of Autry gets a 30-second stop and go penalty for speeding in pit lane. The 12 of Nightwalker gets a 30-second stop and go for speeding in pit lane. And if that happens to one of our leaders who had just come into the pit lane, that would throw a massive wrench in their race and essentially rule them out of contention for the places they were just racing for. Ouroboros and Guzman also come into the pit lane. Goose Slayer, James Earl Jones, as we now have our second wave of pit stops beginning. Ormiston in his element, out front with no real contention around. I believe we'll go past the BMW I believe that is the BMW of Shuby. Yes, it is. Prieto comes out of the pit lane and is all by himself. Giant quite a ways back. And I believe is going to be in a fight with, is that Salinas? Yes, it is. It's Salinas ahead of Giant. Slapshot currently in second on strategy. Ormiston, the race leader, comes into the pit lane, tricks it into the pit lane, Bruton to the pit lane, Aramage not into the pit lane, now comes into the pit lane. Langley will come into the pit lane. Mac Marbles, we'll see if the AM race leader will come into the pit lane. The second place AM driver of Chandler still yet to come into the pit lane. And no, Mac Marbles opting to stay out. Well, now the conversation shifts to Prieto. Has Ormiston pulled the blinder with the overcut? We just have to wait and see where Prieto is when Ormiston rolls off the jacks. Ormiston at the very end of the pit lane. So when he drops off the jacks, it'll be right out into the fray. Not much time on the pit limiter. Prieto coming down the pit straight. And where is Ormiston? We hear Prieto approaching. Ormiston off the jacks, but it's not going to be enough. And Prieto will cruise off into the distance as Ormiston exits the pit lane, and P2 has played a blinder with the strategy. Trixit comes out in P3, and it's quite a large group of cars all here together. Trixit and then Aramich. Is it Slapshot that is overtaken in the pit lane? I believe it is. I think Trixit with a long stop, as Mac Marbles has essentially scored the overall race leader. But it is Prieto, Ormiston, Slapshot, Trixit, as that pit lane has definitely been a grounds for overtaking much more than the actual racing surface itself. The overcut definitely strong, and Ormiston, I think, with just an absolutely perfect stop. Chandler in the pit lane, the second place AM driver, as Mac Marbles will dive into the pit lane, the AM leader, and for a short moment scored the overall race leader. Just needs to make sure that this is not a speeding penalty. And it looks like a good entry into the pit lane for Mac Marbles. Get on the jacks and off as quick as possible, and we could see Mac Marbles bring an AM win here in about 18 or 20 minutes time. It's a trio of very quick drivers. Trixit ahead of Salinas, ahead of Giant. Giant lost quite a few positions in that pit stop debacle there. Mac Marbles was officially scored the leader. Also, thank you to Evan and John Ramazzini. Thank you guys for following, and welcome in. The 12 still with a 30-second stop and go penalty to serve. Trixit defensive as they head towards the bus stop. Is Salinas going to try side by side? No. Backs out of it, lets Trixit have the lead into the bus stop. Aramich trying to chase down the Mercedes of Platypus. Platypus goes off the track though and into the wall. That will give Aramich the position. I'm unsure of exactly what caused all of that, as Autry was also off the track. And Ricky Bobby, the Porsche, I believe, was off the track as well. Don't think Platypus is going to be all too happy about that one, but I'm still don't have the full story. Unsure of exactly what happened in that little altercation. "16 minutes left in this race, and it is Prieto out front, but Ormiston has the fastest lap, and Ormiston does seem to be faster. Still plenty of race left to go. And it might be quite the feat for Prieto to try and hold Ormiston at bay. Up through the S's, the Mustang of Ormiston you see just enter the background. The 14 of Bradzilla Schwartz in the lead. Did Mac Marbles have a bad stop as Schwartz in the number 99 leads the Amfield? Manelli in P2 as Zoenom goes around just ahead of Manelli. I don't know if there was contact involved in that or not, but the Porsche of Mac Marbles right there in that fight as well. Mac Marbles and Dingham going side by side. As they come out of the S's and towards the bus stop, Mac Marbles will slot in ahead. Giant and Salinas in a fight amongst themselves with Brute right behind, kind of watching. Brute has gotten ahead of Trixit. Still very unfortunate that Brute was involved in that early race incident that put him down a lap. Douglas, Ouroboros, and Platypus, all three involved in a fight here amongst each other as Aramich, who just went past Platypus. Ouroboros goes for a very, that's a dive bomb from miles back, manages to get it done. Ouroboros going for the, he's got wife and kids at home. The 12 gets a black flag for failing to serve the penalty. Ouroboros with Douglas right behind. But again, Ouroboros very, very quick in that Audi. Again, just has not had the best of luck tonight. Currently up to P10 and is trying to chase down the 21 of Platypus. Salinas and Giant still with their battle neck and neck. Giant trying to pull some defense from Salinas, but Salinas does not take the bait. And will continue to stay ahead of Giant. But a bit of oversteer, I think, getting onto the power a bit too early from Salinas does not let him get the run that he likely would have had coming out of turn 9. And now is going to be under attack from Giant as Giant slots to the inside. Is not quite going to be able to make it work though, has to slot back in behind onto the racing line. And taking the NASCAR line while you are in a front engine V8 Mustang. It is not a NASCAR Cup car, so that was outside the track limits there, but likely didn't gain any time in doing so. Salinas with Giant in tow, both in Mustangs though. And Salinas on the brakes very, very late into the bus stop. Tyler James around at the bus stop as well. Douglas trying to get this position back from Ouroboros. And Ouroboros trying to chase down Aramich. Platypus almost going off the track and into the walls. As I believe that is Douglas going past the Ferrari of Scroll. About 11 minutes left in this race. Giant still trying to find a way past Salinas, and Trixit is also involved in this fight. As they come around turn 9, it is Salinas, Giant, Trixit, all within about half a second of each other. Trixit desperately relying on the slipstream from the Mustangs as that McLaren just does not have the raw speed to keep up down the straights. And Giant, you can tell, pushing for every last bit of pace that he can get out of that Mustang. This is currently the battle for P4. Salinas in the black and red Mustang ahead, Giant in the purple and gold, and then Trixit in the purple and blue McLaren right behind. But the Mustangs, you can see, especially when they are in the slipstream of each other, just able to cruise away from the McLaren of Trixit. But when they get into the technical sections of the track, them racing amongst each other makes it very, very hard for them to outrun the McLaren, as Trixit has a run on the Mustang of Giant down into the chute. I think Trixit may have a look, will be alongside as they come up to the toe of the boot. I think Trixit's going to go for it. He slots in ahead. Giant forced to get on the brakes as Trixit says, hey, I'm ahead, it's my corner, I'm gonna take it. Bradzilla off the track around just ahead of this fight. Turns to the pit lane. And now Trixit has the job of trying to chase down the Mustang of Salinas. Battle between Mac Marbles and Manelli, who I believe is just ahead. Schwartz just a corner up ahead in the Aston Martin and in the AM lead with less than 10 minutes left to go in this race. But Manelli and Mac Marbles are going to be racing for this podium. Dingham in the Lamborghini also has Goose Slayer right behind. That is a battle for P19 in the overall category. Trixit forced to go wide. And Salinas involved in that as well. Was there contact? Salinas has a very, very poor run out of turn one and hands all of those positions back as Trixit goes ahead of then Giant and Salinas. And now Salinas on the back end of this fight trying to find a way past Giant. The 999 of Sierra, who is just trying to recoup some points into the pit lane and will likely be done for the night. Yes, there was contact. Trixit got into the back of Salinas. I wonder if there's going to be some giving back of those positions if that is the case. Again, Salinas desperately trying to find grip coming out of turn 7. And Aramich, as this all continues to go on, is creeping his way back up the order in P8. I believe started in the top 5, but has just had a bit of work to do, and the battle for the lead is on. I don't know if Prieto made a mistake or what, but Ormiston is right there, and with 7 minutes left to go, Prieto is going to have an absolute handful to try and hold the Mustang back, as that Mustang has a massive speed advantage over the NSX. Prieto will have to be extremely defensive. Ormiston to the inside. Prieto locks it all the way down into the marbles and is going to he's going to force Ormiston to have to go for a move that he may otherwise not want to go for. Prieto is not going to make this very easy, but this is a clash of titans right here. Prieto and Ormiston, we saw these two battle all the way throughout the previous season, and we get to see it again here tonight. Prieto in that Millennium Jade almost Honda NSX up ahead of the black and gold Mustang of Ormiston. Ormiston, the reigning champion, who desperately needs a win to get this championship lead away from Prieto. Prieto, the NSX driver, is the championship leader, but it's not a very large margin. I don't think Ormiston finishing just ahead of Prieto would be enough to cause a swap of the championship positions, but it surely would make it a closer fight. And with 5 minutes left to go, I think that gives us about 3 laps left. It is Prieto versus Ormiston. And Prieto has the very difficult job of trying to hold back the extremely quick Ormiston, who is in a faster car. Ormiston does hold that fastest lap. And Ormiston, again, is going to be on fresher tires as well. Prieto came in earlier than Ormiston. Ormiston stayed out. And maybe that tire advantage will play into Ormiston's hand. Again, battle for the lead between these two. And Prieto has to try and hold off the Mustang. Is it going to be side by side through the bus stop? Just about. Ormiston slots back in behind the NSX. Through turn 5 is not going to find an opportunity, and we see Prieto take a very, very narrow line through the outer loop. I think he just tries to close off the move from behind, but also doesn't want to leave any opportunity up the inside. Again, as they come up into turn 7, nearly making contact. Ormiston much later on the brakes than Prieto, and Prieto a bit of a wiggle coming out of the final corner. It's very, very defensive all the way down to the marbles. Ormiston goes for the swap over around the outside. Prieto will have the inside for turn 8. As they come through 8, Prieto will have to try and slot in ahead of Ormiston. He will be able to do so. Ormiston slides the rear. Now they go through 9, and it's just a car length between the two of them. And you can tell they're both struggling with a bit of tire wear. I wonder if that NSX is maybe better on tires than the Mustang, but again, remember, the Mustang has fresher tires on. I think it will be this lap and one more. It's going to be very close to see if we get 2 more laps, but again, Prieto has to be extremely defensive. Needs to try and stop any sort of run that Ormiston will be able to get. And again, down the S, or up the S's and down the straight before the bus stop. The Mustang is in its primal element. This car is renowned for its top speed, and it has a top speed advantage over every other car on the track. Prieto tries to get some slipstream from the McLaren of Peachy. They are side by side. Ormiston tries to lock in ahead. He does lock in ahead, but he does not get a very good run out of the bus stop. Will Prieto have an opportunity to take this position back, or has the battle for the lead concluded right here as they come out of the outer loop down towards the downhill chute of turn 6? Again, we have seen Prieto have the advantage through this section of the track, but he cannot let Ormiston break free, especially with that massive top speed advantage. Prieto is not going to let him get away that easily, and while it may take a bit of a ambitious move to get this position back, it is not outside of the realm of possibilities for Prieto. Prieto getting a great run out of 8 into 9. We'll see if Prieto able to get a better run than the Mustang. It doesn't really seem to be, though. And again, Ormiston has fresher tires. I'm not sure how much of an advantage that is going to give the current race leader. Ormiston caught out by traffic a bit. That forced him off of the apex. That will give Prieto a bit of an opportunity, but again, he's not going to be able to keep up with the Mustang even in its slipstream range. And this is not going to be the final lap. We will have one more. I'm sure Prieto kind of wishes this would be the final lap so he can just make one brave move for the position and have it over with, but I don't know that Prieto is going to be able to run down the Mustang, who again is on fresher tires. Battle between Ormiston and Mad Sycaster. Not Ormiston and Mad Sycaster, Aramich and Mad Sycaster. Sorry, I've got lead battle on the mind. Aramich essentially pushing the Mustang down the straight. But a bit of a bad run through the bus stop is definitely going to open up that gap. And now Aramich falls backwards into Salinas. Prieto is still there. This battle for the lead is Ormiston again pushing for pace, coming out of the toe, down into the heel. Prieto is still right there. He's not out of this fight whatsoever. Gets a much better run than the previous lap. And we may see Prieto have an opportunity at an overtake. Ormiston has a very, very poor run out of 9. And Prieto, it is on. It's going to be one behind the other, this battle for the lead as we come to the very end of this race. They're going to get one more lap, one more shot at it. As Ormiston will wish he had just a few more seconds, but with 8 seconds left on the clock, they will go for one more lap. Prieto right behind. It is not over yet, ladies and gentlemen, and the Acura gets a better run out of turn 1 than the Mustang. Maybe the Mustang not as good on the tires as Prieto. Maybe Prieto holding back with that NSX and preserving the tires, but they are still one behind the other, a car length between them, and Prieto actually seems to be gaining on the Mustang down the straight. As they head into the bus stop, it's going to be absolutely elbows out between these two. A fight to the bitter end, but no, Prieto makes a massive mistake at the bus stop, and it's over there. Unless Ormiston makes some sort of similar catastrophic mistake, the NSX of Prieto is just going to become a dark green blob in the mirror of that Mustang. And I think maybe Prieto tried to get a bit too ambitious with the curbs at the bus stop, and that's it for the battle. Hopping onto this battle for P4. It's a 3-way fight. Could possibly even say a 4-way fight with the McLaren of Trixit behind. As Aramich will desperately try and find a way past Mustang of Giant. Maybe a late lunge down into turn 8. It will not be there though. Out of the final corner, Ormiston reeling in the race leader and snatching the win away from the championship leader, takes the win in round number 5. And that is a very good way to end the halfway point. Prieto P2. I think Prieto may stay the championship leader, but it gets a bit more interesting heading into the next week. Slapshot P3 as Ormiston throws it around. Giant P4 Mad Sidecaster, P5 Aramich, P6 Salinas, P7 Trixit, P8 Ouroboros, P9 Douglas, P10 Platypus, P11 Langley, P12 your mom P13. A few seconds back, Marvy will bring home P14. Your mom P13, Marvy P14. And right behind Schwartz in the number 99 Aston Martin will take home the win in AM. We'll see what that does to the AM championship. Manelli will bring home P2. Goose Slayer P17 overall. Guzman P18 overall. Mac Marbles P3 in AM. P19 overall. P20 overall. P18 overall. Sorry. Shuby P19 overall. Nate P20. James Earl Jones will bring home P21, Iceberg P24, KP23, as we have had a few drivers start to leave. James Earl Jones, P19, Elmo, P20, and the 33 of Devin Lingard, P21, or a few people have left, so the positions are a bit messed up, but I may be a bit early in saying it, but I would absolutely call that the race of the season right there. It's Ormiston with the win. As let's take a look at that race timetable again. It is Ormiston P1, Prieto P2, Slapshot, bringing together P3, and then in the AM field is Schwartz with the win, Manelli P2, and Mac Marbles in P3. If you get to this point when you're rewatching the VOD, or if you're listening to it right now, please go back and clip some of those racing moments, as again, I do say that is the best race of the season. Don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding another streamer to raid, and also please, if you are not following, I would greatly appreciate it if you are. And if you are not following the YouTube channel, please follow the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get the YouTube subscribers up to about the same as the followers on Twitch. They are very far apart right now. We're also trying to get to 500 followers on Twitch. So if you'd like to help me with that goal, please click that follow button. If you would like to support me, you can do so with a Twitch Prime subscription or just a regular Twitch subscription. Alright, don't go anywhere just yet. We will be finding someone to raid. And then I will leave you all tonight. We're going to go ahead and raid whatever fool. This guy is pretty cool. Play some good music while he is racing. I think he's about to start a race now. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will go ahead and give whatever fool a raid.